Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. We're actually out on the field today, and you might hear a little bit of background noise of people getting ready for some football here in California. But I want to say welcome to iHeartRadio's Charlton and Big C Sports. Today is September the 2nd, 2016. And I know, Big C, we always want to thank our listeners from Latin America, so bienvenidos to you all the way across the pond in London, England, as well as Berlin, the great country of France. And also, never want to forget the good old boys down south in Australia. Ironically, we get people who listen from Australia, Big C, and Cal and Hawaii went down there and entertained them to let them see what kind of football we play in the United States. But how's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
Going wonderful down here, Charlton. We had a little scare from Hurricane Hermes off the coast, but, things are blowing away, and, we expect to get a few more rain showers from the aftermath of that. But, just another beautiful day here in the South, warm. Looking forward to football starting, this weekend. And, we've had some games kick off, but the big weekend starts tomorrow, Charlton, and everybody in America is excited about that.
Well, when you think about the excitement out here, it's already starting here in California because Stanford's taking on Kansas State down on the farm, and they're looking forward to a big game out of McCaffrey. And David Shaw's really built a powerhouse up in the Bay Area. And when you think about powerhouse football, they're the strongest academic school in the Pac-12 at Stanford. And they've won some national championships under Tyra Vanderveer with the girls' basketball team or women's basketball team. And then they also had success with men's basketball over the years. But
you think about their baseball team, their golf team, Noga Bidet and Tiger Woods also school there. You think about their women swimmers have had in the Olympics, Charlton. Yeah. It's a tremendous athletic program and academic program at Stanford. People call it the Harvard of the West. And, there's no letdown when you get to the football program. People use that terminology, dumb jock. You walk down and go and shoot a banter against a football player, okay?
Yeah, they call them dumb doctors. When they call them dumb jocks throughout the country, at Stanford, they call them dumb doctors. Those are the guys that need the most. They need the most insurance against malpractice insurance. But at least Stanford does a good job in getting people ready. You could even hear some of the Harley Davidsons in the background. Yet they even have Harley Davidsons that go around that football stadium. But one thing too that's important is we talked about the NFL and how we have so many people throughout the country right now. Just touching on a little thing about Colin Kaepernick and whether or not he should be a part of the 49ers team. I think if you want someone who can win, Chip Kelly is no fool. He's done great with Oregon. He actually got fired. Think about this. Chip Kelly was fired, coaching the Philadelphia Eagles, had a better record than Jeff Fisher, who just got a $27 million pay raise, Big C, with the LA Rams. So I guess it depends on who you work for, but Chip Kelly's no fool. I think anyone that's intelligent enough to watch football, they saw how well Kaepernick played last night, actually led them on a winning drive, and at the end of the game, I'm more proud of him by not backing down and stating, wait a minute, I'm giving $1 million to organizations that want to help a cause of really just getting people to work again and start cutting down on crime. So I don't know why he's taking so much flack. I understand the national anthem, but if everyone were to really take the time and read the letters in the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, they might understand what he meant, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, this is just something from national media, Charlton, has created this uproar. No one said anything the first two games when Colin Kaepernick said of the preseason, and he didn't dress.
Yeah.
He was unnoticeable. But by sitting on the bench, he meant no disrespect to anybody. He was sitting there in his own world. He didn't raise up any signs or banners. He didn't say anything negative. All he did was sit and quiet.
Yeah.
And when you have someone, you think of Mahatma Gandhi, who sit in quiet protest for years in India.
Yeah.
A great leader. He never spoke of anything violent or anti. Colin didn't do anything anti. He did his own personal thing. There's many Americans who have ways of protesting. Why is there so much mirrored image on Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah.
Is it because he's African American?
I think that's it. I think that's it. There's some players, actually, if we're real about it, even there was a radio station up here in Northern California. They call themselves the Sports Leader. They're the biggest radio station in Northern California with the biggest reach. And they spent so much time talking about his afro and how doesn't he look different with his afro? They were making fun of the afro, which is an African American hair design, but that was okay for that radio station that promotes athletics, and most of the teams they cover are loaded with African American players, whether it's the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, it's straightforward bigoted.
Yeah.
You want to sit there and talk about somebody's authenticity and the heritage of their hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to the 70s and the 60s when you remember Angela Davis, an activist, the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
They all walked around with those afros. That was a big part of the African American heritage of the 60s and 70s. Everybody was very proud of their hair. You know, went to the shaved head, for years. But for him to grow his hair, that's just right as a human being. We don't hear anybody blasting Clay Matthews about his golden locks in Green Bay.
Yeah.
There's never been any backlash against that. And several other NFL players who carry the long dreadlock and other locks.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman has the fake dreadlocks hanging out of his helmet.
Yeah.
There's never any backlash against him. But everybody is finding something to go against Colin Kaepernick. They don't want to talk about his performance.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about how great an athlete he is. They don't want to talk about how much more efficient and better the San Francisco 49er offense was with him in the lineup, only playing in his second preseason game, and how inept they were with Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
They want to make him the next savior. But Colin Kaepernick, Chip Kelly, as you said, is not a dummy.
Yeah.
If he wants to keep a job for more than a year in San Francisco, he needs to keep Colin Kaepernick.
That's so funny, and I think he'll do that too. And this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, we talk so much about the games, and we'll get into some college and some NFL coming up. But one of the best officials out there is, he's been on television for so many years, and it talks about some people who have a hard time listening to what an official says. But his name is Sean McManus, and he's an NFL referee, Mike Carey. He's not returning as the network's officiating expert after too much criticism in the season during his role. As you know, if you're watching the game, you could tell if someone was out of bounds or if someone caught a touchdown pass, and then they go to the instant replay, and then they started putting these guys on TV, the official, quote-unquote, from New York, and they would ask him to go against what you saw with your own eyes. Well, Mike Carey says there's too much criticism in that role because you really can't win. It's always right or wrong. Doesn't matter. And he doesn't want to do that anymore because he feels it takes away from his enjoyment of the game. I know we've always criticized officials, but I kind of agree with him. I wish they get rid of the instant replay because if you don't see with your eyes, what's the video going to tell you? I think that's part of the game, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it comes down to splitting hairs, Charlton, when you go to instant replay. Reality is real time, okay? And that's how sporting is to call, and that's the reason why they haven't gone to the instant replay in baseball to call balls and strikes.
Yeah.
When you look at the hairline catches on the sideline, up above the ground, you go back to the Super Bowl, Charlton.
Yeah.
And if you recall the catch that the Carolina receiver made in the middle of the field,
I remember that.
They ran 3 different replays, and at no time did he ever lose control of that ball or did it hit the ground.
Yeah.
But it came back as an incompletion. That killed Carolina's momentum in the Super Bowl. Now, if Carolina had continued that drive and gone down and got into the to the end zone, who knows what the outcome of the Super Bowl would be. We felt going to that game that there were other pressures and powers that would not allow certain things to occur for Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's what you've always had with instant replay in the NFL. It's not an exact science because humans are the ones judging it. On an instant replay, if it's in the game, you should never be able to review the play more than 20 seconds.
That's all it takes. Yeah.
It's 20 seconds. You get 2 looks at it. That's all. After that, the decisions have to be made. We've seen times where it's taken 2 and 3 minutes for the officials to make an inaccurate call. 2 to 3 minutes to make an inaccurate call. So what you do is that you slow down the ebb and flow of the game.
Yeah.
You show your ineptitude as a professional.
Yeah.
Somebody who's supposed to be the best that there is. And you're telling everybody that Kodak lies because what you saw with your eyes was inaccurate because we can tell you different, and that's what's saying.
I think it was the great comedian Richard Pryor that said, you're going to believe me or your lying eyes, and obviously sometimes we believe what people tell us. But think about this too. I just think it's part of them having the game stretched out more and they get to charge more advertisers, more commercials. That's just part of it. But I want to get your take on some of the college football, and we touched on it some yesterday, but there's so many games and it's hard to spend time breaking down certain games. But I look at one of the bigger games, number 4, Florida State. They're playing number 12, Mississippi, and that game's going to be played in Orlando, Florida. Running back Dalvin Cook, you think he's one of your choices for the Heisman Trophy. Now, Mississippi's a lot better than a lot of people think. I'm just saying it because they beat Alabama twice the last 2 years. But if he has a good game against Mississippi's defense, that gives him, I think, not the shoe-in for the Heisman, but I still think the guy at Clemson is a front runner. But again, what do you like so much about Cook that makes you think that he deserves to be in the top consideration, Big C?
I think his explosiveness and his separation speed, Charlton. But, not just the 7.4 yards a carry, which is phenomenal when you think about a running back averaging that for an entire season and being one of the top 5 rushers in the country.
Could he do that in the SEC, Big C? Could he average that many yards per carry if he, they're going against North Carolina State, Georgia Tech, they're going up against, let's say, North Carolina. If he was playing week in and week out against Alabama, against Georgia, against Texas A&M, against Clemson, not Clemson, but LSU and Auburn, would he have those type of numbers, Big C? That's kind of the knock that people are saying the ACC is not as strong as the SEC.
Okay, Charlton, so what kind of yardage did Deshaun Watson put up against Alabama last year? Tell me what conference he played in.
He's out of the ACC, yeah.
ACC, okay. He threw for some 400 yards against Alabama, rushed for 100.
Yeah.
What his season average was, Charlton.
Yeah.
He did that against Alabama. Okay, so we can talk about Alabama. You got Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Okay. You got Leonard Fournette. They played in that conference last year.
Yes.
All right. Fournette did nothing against Alabama, but he was said to be the Heisman front runner going in.
Yes.
Derrick Henry, got off to a slow start at the beginning of the season before he had those 5 200-yard games tossed in there that catapulted him to the top of the Heisman race.
Yeah.
So any back can run on any given day. It's about the offensive line, Charlton. Are you going to open up the holes? Dalvin Cook has proven, like I said, he ran over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been always one of the top programs in the country.
That's true.
Running against the ACC, look at the players that were drafted out of the ACC. If you want to say that a player is not of caliber, then Carson Wentz should have never been drafted. Who did he play against? Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
He played against nobody. So, you give a guy $22 million.
Now, wait a minute. He played against Montana. Okay, so Montana has a good team. The Grizzlies are pretty good in their conference. I understand them. Are you saying they're not as good as Alabama? Is that what you're trying to say, Big C?
Well, you lied up North Dakota State. Anybody in the ACC, anybody in the SEC, anybody in the Pac-12, anybody in the Big Ten, and tell me what Carson Wentz did in that game while he was still in college.
Yeah.
He would have been a laughing stock of college football at that point. They said, hey, this guy just can't play at the level with the big boys. He's already proven that. So, Dalvin Cook, Charlton, is a superior running back. He possesses speed, power, quickness, the ability to change direction, even more so than Fournette and what the Heisman Trophy winner did in Henry last year, Charlton.
Yeah, well, see, Big C, that reminds me so much of the bias that some conferences get, because as you understand, there are a lot of good players. They just don't all go to the biggest conferences or the most reputable teams because there's only so many scholarships available. Another game I'm going to look at, we have number 9 Notre Dame. Again, they're at Texas, and that's Sunday, going to be in Austin. And Torrey Hunter Jr. is the Irish's leading returning receiver. If they can get past Texas in that game, and I know Texas will be more improved than they were last year, but Notre Dame, they're always thinking that they're going to be a shoo-in for the Final Four in the football championship series. But they have to play USC, they have to play Texas, they're also playing Stanford. And this game against Texas on the road might be more difficult than people think, but Notre Dame is always given the benefit of the doubt that they can get in maybe with 2 losses in the Final Four, Big C. But your thoughts on Notre Dame, and how comfortable are you giving them the edge over Texas down in the South, Big C?
Well, I look at it as a pretty even game, but Notre Dame will have the edge in quarterbacking with Tozer and Zaire going in. 2 proven quarterbacks that they have there at Notre Dame. They got a left and a righty, so they're going to play both of those quarterbacks trying to establish who is the prominent one of the 2.
Yeah.
But when you talk about that powerhouse schedule that Notre Dame plays every year, I think there's 3 teams that people forget about that are on the schedule year in and year out. They're called the academies.
Yeah.
The Naval Academy.
Yeah.
The Army, Air Force, and they even toss in Purdue every now and then. So you look at 4 teams that you don't even have to play your starters again.
Yeah.
Realistically, when you talk about the physicality of those 2 schools, those academy players, if they have a lineman that weighs over 260 pounds, 265 pounds, he's a phenom being at one of those academies because they're prepping themselves for military service, not for life in the NFL. So Notre Dame playing those schools. I understand there's a rich tradition that goes back decades of those universities playing. But for Notre Dame to get any credibility, they should have to take those three organizations off of their schedule to be ranked nationally in the country, Charles.
Yeah, it's almost like a guaranteed win because they're more military schools. They're not lifting weights like you guys do down in Alabama.
They might as well put Furman and Citadel in there also.
Hey, I think they're talking about doing that also, Big C, for the administration. Now, a game that I have more interest in than any other game, and because I'm out here in the West Coast, I look at Alabama. They're ranked number 1, and I know they're going to always do that because it's an easy pick. They're playing number 17, Southern California. I don't know how USC can be ranked as low as 17 when they have the best offensive line in the country and the best secondary in the country. But we'll find out on Saturday how that game goes. Calvin Ridley, 89 catches, 1,045 yards last year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They both have new starting quarterbacks, even though Browner for USC, he's been there. This is his 4th year there, so it's not like he's a freshman. But I think that if the Crimson Tide gets knocked off in this game by USC, it's not going to take them as long to get back into the top 10 because they probably wouldn't drop out of the top 5. If USC pulls the upset, they'll jump from number 17 inside of the top 8, perhaps, Big C. So even if Alabama loses this game, and I do think they're going to lose this game, I think they're still going to be placed in the hunt for the national championship. What it does if the University of Southern California wins, and I want your opinion on this, it will change the perception of the Pac-12 because USC is not favored to win the Pac-12. They're favored to win the Pac-12 South. They're still looking at Oregon and even Washington as the leaders in that conference. And I don't know why Washington is. I think with the quarterback Jacob Browning, they're still a year away. But your thoughts on USC, where would it catapult them in the rankings if they knock off Alabama? And then where would it leave Alabama? Your thoughts?
Well, this is something that would change the graphics of college football when you think about the balance and the power being changed. Alabama, though, has lost a game each of the last 3 seasons, Charlton, and been in the national championship hunt. The key is that they've lost those games early in the season. Then it comes down to strength of schedule, who they're playing after that loss, and do they dominate those opponents? That's the key. You think about Ohio State last year. They lost late to Michigan State, and they did not make the playoffs, even though they hadn't lost a game in 2 years up until that point. They were left out of the playoffs. And so it's an unfair thing. But USC, if they were able to pull the upset against Alabama, as we spoke about yesterday, they've beaten the last 7 number 1 ranked teams in the country that they've played, although they have not done that since 1994. But USC, on any given Saturday, can throw the ball. And that's the key. Can Alabama keep enough pressure on the young quarterback from USC? Not young, but he's been around 4 years, but he's young as a starter. Can they put enough pressure on him? But on the other side, the flip side, Charlton, what is Alabama going to do with quarterback? They have nobody that has played. So, they're juggling quarterbacks also. The one advantage Alabama does have, when you look at that, is Lane Kiffin. USC has not changed their system.
No, wait a minute, Big C. Lane Kiffin has a good relationship with Lynn Swann, okay? So, just think about it. If Lane Kiffin loses this game, if Alabama loses, they're not going to blame the head coach. Saban's going to be off the hook. They're going to point to Kiffin. Kiffin's looking for a head coaching position somewhere, okay? Now, if things don't go well in this game for Alabama, don't think that Lynn Swann doesn't have some pull to help sign the resume as a nice endorsement for Kiffin. Just your thoughts on that.
But also, Charlton, who was on Lane Kiffin's staff when he was at SC? Who's still there?
That's true.
Clay Helton. The head coach at SC right now. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree so far as understanding someone's rhythm, someone's game calling. And he was an offensive coordinator. So look at these guys being on the same page a lot in understanding what SC is doing offensively from Alabama's defensive perspective. Lane Kiffin, if anybody, can break it down better than anybody else. But, I still give Alabama a slight edge. It's a neutral site. You got to look at it, Charlton. These are 2 grass teams that are going to play on AstroTurf. So they're going to be much faster than they would normally be. But Alabama, that stable of running backs that they always have down there, I feel will be the difference in the game.
Well, I think it's going to be a close game. I like the battle of the trench. I'm an offensive guy. You're a defensive guy, Big C. I think the teams that win that battle, they'll get the close win in this. But I think Las Vegas is onto something. I've never seen a team like USC that has 15 projected NFL players on their football team. I've never seen them a 10-point underdog in any game, and that reminds me that Las Vegas has their hands all over this pie. I still think if USC pulls the upset, and they will, they'll jump into the top 8. If Alabama loses, they'll probably fall outside of the top 5, but it still puts Nick Saban in a chance to contend for a national championship. And one more game I want to ask you. I know we touched on it some yesterday, and I think the best quarterback in the Pac-12 for the last 2 years is Josh Rosen. He came out of St. John Bosco High School in Bellflower, California. He's leading the Brewers down to Kyle Field in Texas. You mentioned over 120,000 fans. Now, this poll has UCLA ranked 24 at Texas A&M. That's not even ranked, but Texas A&M is the favorite. Now, rankings don't matter if you can be on the road as a ranked team. You go on the road and get beat by a team that's not ranked. I'm going to give UCLA the slight edge. I know they're going to have a big crowd, but the Rose Bowl holds about 93,000. So 120,000 to 93,000, about the same kind of crowd noise. I just think he's such an accurate passer, and their coaching staff is more skilled, perhaps. I just think this is a game that UCLA is going to go in and win this game. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, when you look at A&M, Charles, they have a tremendous pass rusher,
yeah,
and that's going to be the equalizer in the game. They're going to have to find a way to keep Rosen standing up, because he's going to have to move around in the pocket. A&M will continuously bring the heat.
Yeah.
And ever since Kevin Sumlin has been the head coach down there, he's had quarterbacks that can throw the football.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the things. If you remember the start of the season last year when Kenny Hill came out and set a freshman record against South Carolina,
yeah,
where he threw for well over 500 yards passing in that game, Charlton, and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So Kevin Sumlin has that offensive knowledge as a head coach that can match Rosen down there at UCLA. So, and being at home, and A&M has had the history of the
Texas officiating, is that what you're going to say, Big C? They've had the history of having Texas officiating, the good old boys in Texas, Big C? Is that what you're saying? They have the officiating for the Texas officials. Sometimes that might be seen as an advantage for a team out of Texas. Your thought on that, Big C? Seems like they're having a hard time hearing you, Big C, but I'll just finish up this thought for you. You mentioned that Texas A&M, obviously they're playing a game at home. Kyle Field should be an advantage for them, Big C, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be. But just your thoughts again on why, if Texas A&M is going to win this game, why would that be? Go right ahead, Big C. Looks like we're having some troubles with Big C right now. What we'll do is step away and call Big C back and get him on the line. But I also want to tell everyone that when you look at a game like Texas A&M and then UCLA, it's a game where Rosen can make such a difference in the passing game. I think this is a kid that was the best quarterback last year in the Pac-12. I think also when you look at how great he's been on the road, UCLA has had success throwing the football because he's someone accustomed to throwing the ball, especially when he was in high school. Had a great arm, had an easy time finding receivers. He knows his reads. He's been coached very well by the UCLA coaching staff. So I think that gives him an edge when it comes to going on the road and playing. And don't forget, he's gone into Osmond Stadium in Oregon and played well up against the Oregon Ducks, which is always a tough place to play in the Pac-12. He's also had a strong game against USC, and USC has college type of, I guess it's a tough place to win, but they're not what they were under Pete Carroll, but they're still the same type of team that can give you fits, and Rosen actually had success against the Trojans. If you look at Stanford, how well he played against Stanford, it was a game where Stanford won the game decisively, but he's still the kind of player that can get things going for the Bruins offense. I think they're going to have success at Kyle Field against Texas A&M, and I also feel that as long as they have the chance to be flexible on offense and not try to do too much, I think they're going to give him a chance as Rosen to help them win the game. So that, to me, is something that I look for when I look at Rosen going into Texas and winning the game at Texas A&M. So again, one more time, Big C, what kind of crowd noise do you think it would take to affect him? I don't think it's going to be a problem with Rosen facing the crowd noise, Big C.
A lot of hand signals in the decibel level. A lot of confusion, especially with the offensive line, Charlton. When they can't get the signals, they're going to have to go by touch and protect the young quarterback.
Yeah.
And with the great defensive front that Texas A&M has, they're going to be able to get off on the ball. The offensive line of UCLA be able to react.
Yeah.
And slow down the pass rush.
Well, I understand that too. So it should be a great game of college football. And I know we lost a little bit of sound quality, Big C, but I can hear you very well. But I also want to say that this segment is also sponsored by your California Lottery. I do hope and pray, just like Creflo Dollars, that I'm holding the winning Powerball ticket. That's $150-something million. Also, I'm like Joey Bosa. The Mega Million is only $70 million, but I'll take it, Big C, no matter how much it is. But I do want to say what a buck could do for you can actually change your life. And as we get over into the last game for college football before we touch a little bit on the NFL, and I know you love NFL football, I'm impressed by the University of Houston. If there is an upset, I'm thinking that USC, I don't think it's going to be an upset. I think they're going to win that game outright. But I'd look at Oklahoma and Houston, and Houston has a dual-threat quarterback in Greg Ward. He accounted for 38 touchdowns last year, leading Houston to a 13-1 record. I think they're one of the best teams, whether they're in their own conference or even if they play in the top 10 in the country. I think they're that good, Big C. Your thoughts on Houston and Oklahoma?
Well, Houston actually would have been 14 if Ward got hurt.
Yeah.
In the conference championship game, but you know, when you think about what Houston can do, and Oklahoma is one of those teams that if they don't run the ball, they can get in trouble with Baker Mayfield, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Because he wants to match Ward, you know, pass for pass instead of using Sanjay Perry, the great running back there. And he's one of the top 5 running backs in the entire country.
Yeah.
Across the slate. This young man holds a single game NCAA rushing record for a running back. So he has the ability to carry the mail on you, whether they need to have that carried 30, 40 times a game. He can do that, but that's what you're going to have to do offensively for Oklahoma. They're going to have to keep Houston off the field by controlling the clock, and that's keeping the ball on the ground, letting B. Ryan, you know, jump 4 or 5 yards a chunk.
Oh, yeah.
And slowing down the game. But if they let Ward get out on the field with his mobility and his throwing ability, Charlton, it's going to be a long day for Oklahoma defensively. As we've seen over the years, Bob Stoops has found a way to let the big game get in early or late in the season. So Oklahoma's season could be in peril the first game of the season against Houston. And they're playing in Houston, Charlton, so it's a home game, home crowd. Both of these schools recruit well in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
But I like Houston in this game, Charlton.
Well, that sounds good, Big C. And so you're looking at maybe a couple of upsets in the top 10 in week 1 of college football season.
Charlton, I hate to call them upsets because these so-called experts pick these teams that are better than other teams. Most of them have never put a jock on, Charlton. Football is a game of desire and heart, okay, and ability. Just because you can pick up a pen and type on a keyboard real fast does not make you an athlete. That's why ESPN has put so many pretty faces up on the screen. You don't need to be a jock to talk about the game, but you need to be a jock to play the game. And so when they say that this one university is way better than that other university, don't base it on history. Base it on the players that go out there today and play. The playing surface in college football has been leveled, Charlton, over the last 2 decades with the reduction of scholarships. Great athletes go to where they can play, regardless of the level, regardless of the university. That's why when you see one of these major universities on these major conferences, Charlton, lose a game, it's not an upset. They've just been out athletic.
Well, you know, and I agree with that very much. When you get to this level of football at Division I level, there's so many teams. They're evenly matched. It's just a matter of how many scholarships can a university give out. And also, as we transition into the NFL, Big C, and I love your take on college football, but I really love your take on the NFL football. And this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. We're also endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association. We're looking to employ over 1,000 brokers to go to work and help take care of American families. We're also endorsed by the AFL-CIO, which covers all of the unions in the country. So tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on Twitter. If you're looking for work, we're trying to put people back to work. But also, Big C, I know, you know, when you look at the holiday weekend, everybody's going to probably get full of moonshine. And speaking of moonshine, guess what I had for lunch today, Big C? I had the moonshine burger at Carl's Jr. I walked in there looking for some meat. I started thinking like Big C, was I going to go take my car and go out to hunt down some livestock? But I decided Carl's Jr. is selling moonshine burgers, so I went in there. Man, that's a tasty burger. Remember Sam Jackson in the movie where he was in... Pulp Fiction. And I bit into the moonshine burger and said, man, that is a tasty burger. Maybe we'll try to get Carl's Jr. as one of our sponsors also. But speaking of football, I know you down south, the Atlanta Falcons, they're a 2.5-point favorite over Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay has a better quarterback in Winston than the good old boys do over in Atlanta, Big C. As a Harley Davidson is flying right now. The Harley Davidson is flying out here in California, Big C. You can hear it going by. But I still think Ryan and Winston, I know Winston's a younger player, but I think he's a better quarterback. I would trust him more than Ryan to win a big game, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Ryan's going to be a little bit of disadvantage right now. He lost Julio Jones a couple of weeks ago. They're going to hold him out. And, you look at Winston, he has a young receiver core, got a good, running game.
Yeah.
He's lost 20 pounds from last year, and he's going to be a year better, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's been throwing the ball marvelously here in the preseason. He's got a lot of zip on the ball. He's reading the NFL defenses a little better in the second year. So Tampa Bay is a team on the rise.
Yeah.
Atlanta can't figure out what they're doing right or wrong.
Yeah.
The past couple of years, they started off the season well, but all of a sudden they hit a hiccup. And
Yeah.
they couldn't win a game. They go on 6-7 game losing streak. And you got a quarterback at the so-called caliber of Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Who hasn't done anything great in his professional career, but based on potential, he's like Carson Wentz and Jeff Goff.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
But he can't win the big games. He can't get his team to the playoff consistently, just like a Tony Romo. So I would rather go with the young guy with the better upside.
Yeah.
And
Winston.
Yeah. And to worry about what Ryan going to do.
Well, speaking of the moonshine burger, I think a lot of these owners, Arthur Blank, maybe they're drinking too much of that moonshine when they're giving guys like him $125 million and he can't win a playoff game other than one time, and that was against Seattle. So once in 10 years, that's not too good. Minnesota, again, brokenhearted about Bridgewater, but they're 1 point underdog, actually a 1 point favorite over Tennessee and Marcus Mariota. I don't know how they win that game without Bridgewater, Big C. They're on the road at Tennessee, and Tennessee has a strong running game this year. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, the running back. They got a dual threat with Murray and Himmer in the backfield. Mariota, we've seen his ability in his rookie year other than the knee injury that he suffered.
Yeah.
But he seems to be healthy right now. The team right now is playing for the head coach, Mike Mularkey.
Yeah.
They want to see him around for a long time. He's brought in a lot of players that have bought into his scheme. So I like what Tennessee does. You can pound the ball, you can pound the ball. Mariota is very mobile in the pocket. He can get outside, put a lot of pressure on the defense. The Vikings, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
John Hill is not Teddy Bridgewater.
You think?
He lacks mobility
Yeah.
and he lacks the arm strength. That's the key, Charlton. He floats a lot of footballs.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, if you don't get it there in a hurry, a defensive back will. So that's one of the things you got to look at is Minnesota's offense. They're going to have to throw a lot of quick routes. You won't see the ball being pressed down the field, which allows those safeties to play closer to the line of scrimmage, will limit the ability of an Adrian Peterson because you'll have 8 men in the box, Charlton.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Now, I know Philadelphia and Cleveland, I'm more excited about seeing RG3 for Cleveland play than I am with anything that Philadelphia is throwing on the table. Your thoughts on RG3 and then the Philadelphia Eagles playing against the Cleveland Browns? Now, the Eagles are a 6-point favorite. I don't know why. The over-under is 43. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, I really like the way that Cleveland and Hugh Jackson has his team set up this year. If you think about Cleveland, Charlton, they played the preseason without their top 2 wide receivers. Terrell Pryor, a former quarterback at Ohio State, former Oakland Raider, #1 supplemental draft pick, was their top receiver. And he did well. He and RG3 were on the same page. Now, just imagine what RG3 is going to do once he gets his top 2 receivers in offense. Now, he throws the deep ball in the quarter. The Cleveland offensive hand.
Yeah.
The offensive line has been around for a couple of years, so they mesh well together. They lost Alex Mack. They're all pro center. He went to Atlanta. But I don't think he'll be sorely missed with the people that they have around there. Now, Cleveland RG3, this is not a rebirth of him.
Right.
This is just an opportunity of him being able to play again.
Yeah, I agree.
He got himself healthy by sitting out a year, relaxing, letting his mind catch up with the game, and he did that. His body is back to where it was as a rookie.
Yeah.
So he expect big things from RG3 in Cleveland. So many naysayers had his career over. Now they got to go eat that cheese that they was
Yeah, they might have to eat the cheese on the Ouya burger or the cheese on the what they call the moonshine burger, Big C. So that's good thoughts on that. Another game that doesn't really have a lot of appeal anyway, but Cincinnati playing the New York Jets. Your thoughts on Cincinnati and New York? That game has Cincinnati a 2-point favorite, Big C, in New York.
Well, Cincinnati has to shore up its receiving core from last year. They got a great running back, Tandem Hill, and I'm trying to think of another kid named 26 out of North Carolina, Giamatti.
Yeah, Giamatti.
These 2 backs are wonderful. Andy Dalton, we know what his ability is as a quarterback since he's been in the NFL, and they need to keep him healthy. This is the one year they need to really keep him healthy. They lost one of their receivers, but A.J. Green suffered an injury in the first preseason game.
Yeah.
I don't think, that's going to affect him here at the start of the season, but I like Cincinnati's ability. The Jets won 10 games last year, but there's still some instability there in the backfield with the running back. They get Fitzpatrick back, but their running game hasn't been solidified yet with the Jets. So I like Cincinnati in this game.
Now, another game that I'm interested in, New Orleans at home. It's a pick-em against the Oakland Raiders coming there. That's an early start for Oakland. They didn't play that well in early games last year, but I think Carr is mature enough now. I think they have Crabtree, and he's more of a solid go-to guy, the number one threat. And I think their defense, with Khalil Mack, led by Khalil Mack, who also follows us on Twitter, I think they have to make a statement. New Orleans is not a difficult team, but playing in that dome is a difficult place to play, Big. So your thoughts on New Orleans and Oakland?
The New Orleans defense last year, Charlton, was very porous. It was like holding guards up in front of them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't stop themselves.
Right.
So, Drew Brees can only do so much. I mean, he's going to go out and get you 4,000 yards passing every year. But, they got to find some players. They've lost a lot of receivers. Colston is gone. Jimmy Graham was gone 2 years ago. Their running game, Ingram really hasn't performed at the level that they expect. Their offensive line has been retooled. Drew Brees has been the one consistent, but their defensive side of the ball has been very poor.
Oh, yeah.
New Orleans are going to have to find some people who can play defense. I mean, this is the NFL. And you can't go out and find 11 quality players.
Yeah. Right.
But they can't get to the running back. That's one of the things that they're going to have to do this year.
You say they better catch their paychecks in a hurry before one of them gets cut for not making tackles, Big C. That's funny. Also, when I look at another game, I know you like Kansas City with Alex Smith, 7-point favorite over San Diego. San Diego really has a lot to prove because they're looking at moving their organization, maybe back to Los Angeles or even Las Vegas of all places. But that game, Kansas City, I think Alex Smith played very well last year. They're a 7-point favorite. That might be even a small margin of victory since they're at home against San Diego. Big C, your thoughts on that game?
San Diego is a team that really hasn't established anything. Their running game wasn't what they expected last year with Gordon, the rookie running back out of Wisconsin. He was injured, had some problems. Their receiving core just wasn't solid. Phillip Rivers has gotten long in the tooth. I mean, he's been around the NFL now for 11 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, his time window was getting very short. He came into the league at the same time with Roethlisberger and Manning, and both of those guys have won 2 Super Bowls apiece.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers has made it to the AFC Championship, but Antonio Gates is not the receiver he was 5 years ago, tight end, so he doesn't fear defensive backs. They don't fear him as much as they once did, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, we talk about the pass rush in San Diego. Bosa held out, and if Bosa was holding out, it was going to be the difference maker.
Yeah.
In their pass rush, he hasn't had enough reps, got enough dirt on his cleats to make it.
well, I tell you, Bosa right now with the kind of money they're giving him, it's just funny to see what kind of season he's going to have down there with the Chargers. Another game that might seem interesting, I like Baltimore. They're a 3-point favorite at home versus Buffalo. I'm going to go with Buffalo to go in there and win that game. I think they're well coached. I think there's no pressure on them at home. They have some great quarterbacks, and I really like the way they challenged last year. I think they can only get better. Your thoughts at home, Baltimore favored by 3 over Buffalo. I think if you think about Baltimore and Buffalo, Big C, I think that's a game where I like Tyrod Taylor. I like what's happening with Buffalo. I think they're very well coached. They should be able to go in there and get a win. I know everybody loves to watch football, and it's a great game. And I love the fact that the NFL is starting out again, and we're hoping that we're going to have some great football. And I know that we're all looking forward to it, but I do think that's a game that Buffalo can go on the road and get that job done with that one. And if we look at past the Buffalo game and Baltimore, Houston, they're at home. They're a 5-point favorite over the Chicago Bears. I think Brock Osweiler has a lot to prove. This is a guy that was actually benched last year. He was benched when they were at Denver for Peyton Manning, who was told by too many doctors that he was too frail to play the game of NFL football. Brock Osweiler gets the chance to go over to the Houston Texans, where they gave him $72 million. And we're going to see if he can earn it. I know he looked very good in their last game against Kansas City, had a nice completion rate, but it is preseason football. I just think that Brock Osweiler has a lot to prove, and I think it's going to be difficult for him to have the same kind of season that they had him benched last year, Big C. He was benched because he wasn't that effective. But if Osweiler is going to have success, is going to have to be at home against Chicago. Chicago's not a very strong team, but I'm still looking at someone like Osweiler not having the success that many people thought he would have this year. And I know that you look at him, how he was behind Peyton Manning last year, and even though, again, you have Peyton Manning that was injured, you're going to bring in a Brock Osweiler. I don't know if Brock Osweiler can be any more effective than he was when he got benched, Big C. Your thoughts on Brock Osweiler?
Well, he looked very well in the last preseason game against the Cowboys. I mean, he played 3/4 of the game. The Houston offense was able to move the ball up and downfield. We know that the Cowboys' defense has not been their strong suit over the past couple of years. When you look at them, they've had people in and out of trouble on police blogs and everything else.
Yeah.
So, in Texas, Jerry Jones is on the offense and hasn't cared about what the defense has done. That means that there be a lot of new players.
Wait a minute, Big C. You're saying Jerry Jones has players that get in trouble? Is that what you're saying down in the big state of Texas? That's funny. So he built his house so big because he has so many people housed in it. Is that what you're saying?
He got to keep some of these players out the box so he brings them home, put them in the houses out back. Dan O'Brien, the coach there in Houston, has done a good job of putting that game together. Now, the trouble spot now is on defense.
Yeah.
The two major defensive ends may not be there for the first game of the season. You look at J.J. Watt coming off the back surgery. They say they expect him to play, but how effective will he be coming off back surgery?
Yeah, that's true.
Javavian Clowney, the number 1 draft pick from 3 years ago, hasn't done anything but collect the paychecks.
Yeah. And they've all cashed too, Big C. They've all cashed.
He keeps running that highlight against Michigan. When he smashed the one back ball.
Hey, Big C, when you saw that highlight, didn't it look like he hit 27 different players? It was just one. They showed the clip 27 times in an hour.
Yeah, in an hour. I mean, they showed it over and over, but that hit occurs all the time. You should look at some of the hits that some of these defensive backs in college football level on people that can do a more devastating hit than what Clowney did. But they can also play at the next level. But, he has really emulated his name since he's been in the NFL with his last name.
Yeah.
That's what he's been on the field. He's been a
big.
total bust. And,
Yeah.
This is his last run with Houston because they're not going to pay him any more money after this year if he can't go out and play. You think about this. He's had 2 sacks in his NFL career, 2.
That's 2 more than me, Big C. Yeah.
He has 2 sacks in 3 years in the NFL, so if that's a success story, there's a lot of guys that's not being paid enough money, Charlton. And Joey Bosa was right in line as far as the money he was asking for.
Yeah, that's funny, too. And this final segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and CYNN Entertainment. Cynthia Evans is the best in Northern California when it comes to promotions. Big C, as we finish out, and I know you were having some weather down south, and we have Harley Davises out here getting ready for all the tailgating we're doing live on scene with the Charlton Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. Want to finish up with the NFL projections with Green Bay Packers, 4.5-point favorite over Jacksonville. Jacksonville might be improved, but Green Bay is a tough team, even though they're on the road in Jacksonville. Your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers coming into this season?
Well, Jacksonville is a team that's always been a potential team. Blake Bortles was drafted on potential, going number 1 overall. Same year Teddy Bridgewater was drafted. People thought it'd be Bridgewater, ended up being Bortles. But, Bridgewater's had more success prior to the knee injury than what Bortles has had. Jacksonville is a question mark. They've had some young great receivers. They got some good running backs.
Yeah.
But their offensive line, they've had to reshuffle.
Oh, yeah.
Their offensive line. Luke Joko, who they drafted, the number 1 offensive lineman years ago out of Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They had to move him into guard because he could no longer protect the pocket playing out of tackle. So when your team is in that kind of disarray and you're taking linemen, putting them in new positions, all the angles change.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a tough season, I think, once again for Bortles down in Jacksonville. Been hit a lot in his young NFL career, and I expect him to get hit an equal amount again this year.
Well, that's very true, Big C. Also, another good team that, I love the Seattle Seahawks. Now, it's rare in the NFL, and it rains in Seattle the same way it does down south of your good old boys, Big C. But Seattle's a 10-point favorite over Miami. And I know that game's in Seattle, but when an NFL team is favored by 10, the over-under is 44. That's a lot of respect, not only for their defense, which they're known for, Legion of Boom, but their offense. What are your thoughts? 10 points, too much, Big C? Your thoughts on week 1?
You might want to give Miami a couple more points.
Yeah.
When you look at Seattle, and they have that 12th man in Seattle also.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is just a phenomenal quarterback. Ryan Tannehill has been very disappointing since his arrival the NFL. You keep waiting on him.
Well, they keep paying him, Big C. They keep paying him, though, so I don't know if you say he's been a disappointment because those checks keep bouncing. So his owner must love what he's doing, even though they don't win, Big C, but he's getting paid anyway, Big C. Your thoughts? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, he also signed a contract extension, Charlton, this last year. So, and it's amazing when quarterbacks are not productive and the kind of money that they get. But the Dolphins haven't done anything to improve themselves offensively or defensively this year. They lost to Dominican Sue for a couple of weeks ago in preseason games. So this is a team coming out of Seattle, and they're coming out playing in this harsh environment. Yes, it's humid and all and wet in Miami.
Yeah.
But it's humid and wet in Seattle. But
Yeah.
Seattle has such a great organization.
Oh, I love it.
From the top down. When you look at Pete Carroll, how he handles his players, you don't hear any controversy in Seattle about the coaches and the players. He makes moves that benefits the team. And so Seattle has a proven leader, Russell Wilson. No one questions his leadership ability. No one questions Pete Carroll. That defense has been solid with Bennett, Sherman, and players like that.
Oh, yeah.
On that defensive side. So where they're linebackers, this is a team that's there. Miami has been searching for an identity for the past half decade.
Yeah.
And they haven't found it yet. And they're not going to find it playing Seattle, Charlton. So chalk this one up there. And Seattle's favored by 10. You can make it 14.
Okay, well, I'm sure the good old boys in Vegas would love to hear that, Big C. Also, another game which may have lost some of its luster from a promotion standpoint of view, but I think it's going to be one of the most highest-rated games when it comes to watching. That's the Dallas Cowboys, led by Dak Prescott. They're a 1-point favorite over the New York Giants. That game's in Dallas. The over-under is 46. I think with Prescott and also Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas could hit 40 points with those two players alone. And, of course, their receiving core is great. They have the best offensive line in football. But they're only a 1-point favorite over the New York Giants, which really hasn't done anything in the last couple of years, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, you're looking at two teams with in-depth defenses.
Yeah.
Dallas has nobody on defense that's wanting or willing to play. The same as the Giants.
Yeah.
Both of these teams possess great offensive players at the receiving core, at the quarterback position. But also, you're going to find out the true metal of Dak Prescott. Now, he's played well here in the preseason.
Yeah.
But now he's got to play against grown men every play, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's the difference, okay? When you're playing in the preseason, you play against a lot of mixed lineups. Now you're going to play against starters for 4 quarters. That's going to be the difference. Dak Prescott was not drafted by the Dallas Cowboys to be the starting quarterback. He was drafted to be a backup quarterback, but he was forced into the starting role. Yes, he's performed well, but can he get over the hump in the preseason, in the regular season? Now you go back to Eli Manning, who has looked atrocious for the last 3 years in the NFL, and 2 of those he's led the NFL in interceptions. Other years, Peyton Manning led the NFL in interceptions. So when you think about Eli had the privilege of sitting back behind Kurt Warner. Yeah. When he came into the NFL, learning the game, Kurt Warner took all the shots for Eli Manning. He took all the beatdowns. Yeah. Then Eli Manning came in and he had a chance to understand offense, but he's lost that over the past couple of years. He's had some great receivers, but he has not been consistent in the pocket. This is a pick-up game. I mean, the 1 point might be too much. This is just a pick-up. Well, that's interesting, Big C. Indianapolis, a 4-point favorite over Detroit, and that's a game with Andrew Luck. Obviously, they're going to be at home. The league is really trying to push Andrew Luck. They're only a 4-point favorite over Detroit. Your thoughts on what can happen in that game with Dallas, not Dallas, but with Detroit going into Indianapolis, Big C? Well, Indianapolis hasn't done anything, Charlton, in the last year and a half. Andrew Luck hasn't proven to me that he's a consistent NFL quarterback. Matthew Stafford has been the same, but, with Detroit playing at home, I kind of give them a little bit of advantage. Yeah. At least they know the home field. Andrew Luck has to play consistently in the pocket. His receiving core is good. His running game is questionable. Right. Detroit has all of that. They have Abdul in the back uniform and Nebraska running back. Yeah. They can balance out the game. And, they have a good, solid receiving core. They don't have Salvin Johnson anymore. But now the ball won't just be going in one place. It can allow Matthew Stafford to throw it all over the field. So I give Detroit a little bit of advantage in this game. And Luck is a popularity vote. Yeah. But I like Detroit as far as the game vote. Well, this is an interesting game. Arizona, they're actually a 5.5-point favorite over New England. Now, I know they're at home, but Arizona hasn't looked that great in the preseason. I know it's mainly a time for evaluation. I know we're not getting Tom Brady playing in this first game, but Arizona, a 5.5-point favorite over Bill Belichick's coach team because he just puts players in, Big C. But your thoughts, is that too big of a point spread? Arizona 5.5 over New England, even though they're at home, Big C? This is a tough call. NFL regular season start, how will he handle it? Such as we talked about Dak Prescott in Dallas.
Yeah.
But he's been around a couple of years. He's been under the tutelage of Bill Belichick and a Tom Brady. So he's going to have a better grasp of the offense and game speed than what Dak Prescott will have, Charlton. But, Arizona can do some things defensively. We see how deep they went in the NFC playoffs last year.
Yeah.
New England did in the AFC playoffs.
Yeah.
So you got two well-balanced teams, and they're looking at the difference in this game being the quarterbacks, Carson Palmer, the proven veteran, versus Garoppolo.
Yeah.
He's done well in the preseason, but he's not set the world on fire. The 5 points is not a stretch. This is a touchdown game, so, take Arizona, and they're at home. You got to look at playing on grass, Justin.
Well, thinking about a good team that's at home, I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. We have 2 Monday night games. Pittsburgh, they're on the road at Washington, and they're a 3-point favorite going into, you like that? Your cousins. But I think that's a game that the Steelers will probably win. Roethlisberger versus Kirk Cousins. Your thoughts on Pittsburgh going into Washington and winning on Monday night?
Well, if it comes down to a quarterback battle, I like Roethlisberger. He's a big-time player. Big Ben can play.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was last year a fluke. That's what we're going to find out in a hurry.
Yeah.
He threw the 30 touchdowns last year. Can he repeat that performance? When you look at Washington's offense, they lost several key players. I mean, they got a good receiver core. They got Jackson back, but they lost Morris in the running back position. But, it's hard to duplicate back-to-back 30 touchdown seasons. The Steelers are a great defense.
Great defense.
Last year when they lost Nick LeBeau.
Yeah.
But I think in the second year, the system, they will be back to where they were. Roethlisberger, and they just signed Brown, new contract, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Got to cover him first.
Yep. He can catch anything. In fact, he has a good haircut also, Big C. So if you like the Mr. T kind of looking haircut. Now, a big game that hasn't happened in California in over 22 seasons, you have the Los Angeles Rams. They're playing the San Francisco 49ers. 2 California teams finally again for the first time in 22 years. But they're playing that game up in San Francisco at Levi Stadium. The over-under is 44, and the Rams come in at 2.5-point favorite. I think that's because I don't think they looked at the fact that Colin Kaepernick's going to start this game. Even if Chip Kelly makes a stupid mistake and doesn't start him, I think if you have Kaepernick, the guy they're going to line up and go behind, I think Kaepernick's good enough to make the 49ers at least a 4-point favorite in this game, better than a field goal. But for some reason, they have the Rams coming in here winning this game. I just want to get your thoughts on this, Big C, on San Francisco being a 2.5-point underdog at home to the Los Angeles Rams.
How many points did Kaepernick hang on the Chargers the other night?
More than the sports bettors tend to understand, Big C.
Okay, so this is a guy that can eliminate that 44-point spread, okay?
Yeah.
He can cover that.
Yeah.
Kaepernick brings that unique ability. If you're comparing him against the Rams' #1 draft pick overall, Jeff Goff. Now, I was talking with a former NFL head coach today, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he was evaluating Jeff Goff. And he said he wouldn't have traded one player to get Jeff Goff. And the Rams gave up 4 or 5 players to get Jeff Goff.
Yeah.
And he said, when Jeff Goff takes off his T-shirt, looks like a 13-year-old boy.
He does.
And he sit around and he talked about some of the things that you and I have talked about on the show.
Yeah.
In big games, he never showed up.
No.
Okay. He never beat SC. He never beat UCLA. He never beat Utah. He knew these things.
Never beat Stanford. Never beat Stanford? No.
But these are big games. Now what do you have in the NFL every week?
But wait a minute. They beat Air Force, Big C, okay? You're not giving Air Force enough credit.
No, they one of those academy schools.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
But what is every game in the NFL every week? It's a big game, Charles.
Yeah.
You don't get any weeks off in the NFL. And that's why Jeff Goff will slide down to number 3 on the roster. But if the 49ers want to win and have a productive season, Kaepernick was hurt last year.
Yeah.
He's healthy now.
Yeah.
He's a little thinner this year than what he was last year. But, in a month, he can put those 15 pounds back on because everybody knows he's a workout freak.
Well, see.
So he'll spend the time in the weight room, getting stronger. If the 49ers expect to have a winning season, and Chip Kelly, like I said earlier, wants to keep his job,
Yeah.
the 49ers have this 44-point spread.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick is the only quarterback on the 49ers roster. They have a couple pretenders.
Yeah.
But Colin Kaepernick is the only quarterback that they have.
Well, the people understand. They brought in Ponder when Kaepernick was injured. And Kaepernick's not as big as he used to be, but you normally don't lift a lot of weights when you have shoulder surgery, Big C. I know you good old boys down south, you kind of tough it out through the pain, but when you have shoulder surgery and you don't... Hey, Big C, I lifted that moonshine burger. That's a pretty heavy burger at Carl's Jr. So really impressed with the way Kaepernick played last night. And I just realized that a lot of the media people that were saying trade this guy, no, they need to trade the prognosticators who were saying trade Kaepernick, because obviously they don't understand the best talent that they haven't seen in San Francisco since Steve Young left at the quarterback position.
Jock to understand the game of sports. Okay?
Yeah.
If you've never put on a jock, you don't understand the game of
yeah.
sports.
Okay.
And if you look at some of these pot-belly guys sitting up there eating at craft services.
Now, why you keep making fun of Mel Kiper, Big C? He gets paid a lot of money to be wrong. So, did you say a monkey had a better percentage than Mel Kiper, Big C? Is that what you said? Well, well, I understand that too. And something I want to bring up as we take this show to an hour today, because it is football and the holidays here, and everybody's getting ready to eat the moonshine burger at Carl Jr. and all the other good things. I just want to close out the last few minutes, Big C, on something that we've talked about that I'm very proud of. In college football, we talked about black college football, how the ESPN has shunned them over the years. They might have one game, which was Texas. It would be Georgia Southern versus Grambling. They had always played that game down in Georgia. But I want to just say, I want to commend college football. But Alcorn State's playing at Bethune-Cookman on ESPN, and Texas Southern is playing at Prairie View, and that's going to be on ESPN before the Notre Dame at Texas game. I think because of the consciousness that you bring, Big C, into the black college football, ESPN has two games on before the Notre Dame Texas game, Big C. So congratulations, ESPN, understanding that black schools have talent too, and we're going to see as many black college football this year as we see high school football, Big C. So I think you had a lot to do with that, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
It's nice to see that traditional black college football has risen to the level of respect that high school football has.
Yeah. Wait a minute. They show high school more than black college football, and most of the players in the NFL are African American. Most of them come from the region of the country where the black college footballs are dominated by the SEC now and the ACC and even the Big 12. It's nice to see them getting some respect, because when ESPN shows up, that brings commercialism, that brings sponsors, that brings money, and when you have money like Phil Knight, you can put money into your program. So I think ESPN for TV, they're trying to do what LeBron James is doing and what Jim Brown talked about, but Big C, you started. If you put money into something, it can grow, it helps the resources, and it creates jobs. So again, your thoughts on black college football being on twice in one day, Big C, on ESPN.
Well, that's normally twice as much as
yeah. Yeah.
But I commend ESPN as well as I commend the commentators on ESPN, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because every day that you listen to Charlton and Big C Sports, you can turn on ESPN the following morning and hear the stories that we've talked about.
Well, that's not true, Big C. Sometimes they're 2 days behind, okay? Sometimes they're 2 days behind. I've tracked it, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
I want to commend the reporters and the researchers on ESPN for paying attention to what we're doing, to understand that we're on track, that we brought that breath of fresh air into the sports broadcasting business, that we're truthful, we're honest, we're upfront. We've done things that no one else has done. There's a new show with Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
They emulate us so much, and they did a role reversal on this show.
Yeah.
They've made Stephen A. Smith the rational guy, and they've made Max Kellerman.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, Shannon Sharp also has a show with one of your good old boys. I think it's Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting to hear Shannon Sharp talk, because I'm going to bring it in a translator.
Hey, leave Shannon alone. He's up within that Mile High area where sometime you get a little bit lightheaded, Big C, if you know what I mean. So sometimes, but yeah, I think it's funny. They're pairing more black and white broadcasters this year. So I think we're both the same color. Last I saw, Big C, but they're always trying to add another black guy to the booth.
That's the network's piece on social consciousness.
Yeah.
If they pair the black guy and the white guy, they make the white guy the broadcast. If they make the black guy the subdued guy, the rational guy, they're doing their bid for social consciousness. I mean, it's really easy and simple to see what ESPN is doing. It's great that they're employing African Americans, and Fox Sports, that they're employing African Americans on network broadcast.
Yeah, and that's true. So we'll see, Big C. We've been more good to the economy for black men than Donald Trump has. So I want to congratulate Charlton and Big C Sports for bringing more of our brethren onto the broadcast. But also I want to get you to close out, because this is our show before the holiday, that everyone should have a safe holiday and a prosperous holiday and hang out with people you care about and love. But Big C, I just want to get your thoughts on the college football and then NFL football, what it means to you in the last few minutes, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, this is a historically significant weekend in the annals of football, Charlton, when you think about it. Never in the history of college football have so many great teams and matchups kicked off a football season.
Yeah.
This is something we normally get in December and January when we get conference playoffs and bowl games. But American public is being rewarded.
Yeah.
I think college football has understood that you can't always put together the cupcakes at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Because the fans want true competition right out the belt.
Yeah.
And now with the playoff system that's in place, this is really the chance to get a true measure of a champion. So if you get somebody who can go through a season undefeated at this level, playing this type of competition, then there's no dispute about who should be in the playoffs, Charlton. When we look at the NFL, this is something that America sits around and waits on every year.
Yeah.
The churches will close early come Sunday. All the ministers will have the congregation out by 12.
You're saying God likes football, Big? Even God's watching football too, Big? God's watching the Alabama USC game?
You gotta be there for the kids.
Okay.
They even open the roof so he can watch the game.
That's funny.
So, when you think about the impact that football has on American society, I was doing some research, Charlton, and I looked at this. Statistically, in America, Saturday has the less domestic violence in America than any day of the week. Saturday, Charlton. Because there are so many college football games, so many community affairs and actions. Everybody's involved in the game. College football does great moves for society in America, Charlton, because it impacts so many people, whether you live in that town or not. Because those alma maters and those alumni, Charlton, they're synonymous with each other. The NFL is a different horse, but Saturday is a great soother for America as far as cutting down on violence against other people. Because of the interaction that the game brings from people friendly and unfriendly. That rivalry impact on college football on American society is great. The NFL, when we get there, the market shares just go up. No one goes out on the street. Everybody's moving to a TV somewhere, whether it's in a bar, whether it's in your backyard, whether it's in your garage with your friends because your wife won't let you out. Making all that noise. But this is something, this is Americana. And when we talk about Americana, I mean, we've thrown a lot of politics, Charlton, into the game because politics are part of sport.
That's part of American.
The beauty of the game. Let the game be played. Don't let the officials screw it up. Let them sit back and watch the players play. Don't look for TV time under the hood on an instant replay. Make the call, let it stand, go. But I'm so happy. Once again, I'm not a player anymore. I'm not a broadcaster anymore on television, but I'm a broadcaster here. But to be involved in the game, to witness the game from a different perspective, I really appreciate the game. I didn't always understand it as a player because I was so entrenched in the business of the game, Charlton. Even as a coach and as a broadcaster full time, I was entrenched in the game. But now I sit back, have a newfound respect for the game. I respect the players and what they had to go through. To get to this level, you have empathy for the 1,000 players that lost their job this week. In the NFL, 1,000 players, Charlton, this week lost their job and have to find something else to do. They don't do the untold stories about the game, but it's a part of American society. And I hope the best for all those players who are no longer going to be strapping on the shoulder pads. But, that they can become central parts of American society and look forward to a great future in whatever they pursue. But I'm so happy to have an opportunity to work with you and watch football one more opening weekend, Charles.
Well, I tell you, Big C, I appreciate those kind words, and to me it means so much. I want to encourage everyone, no matter what you're going through, always keep pushing forward. And for all the women out there, I hope that everyone stays safe. No domestic violence, no toleration for it. If you see anyone in trouble, just call 911, get them some help. I hope that everyone can enjoy football, and I hope you can listen to us. This was our 1-hour show for the holiday season and for the kickoff of college football and NFL football. I want to thank you for joining us, as you can always do every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports. And as we always want to tell you that we love doing what we do, and we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.